This is the moment in the history of the NBA. Be the team. Because if they're not, the amount of criticism that they're going to receive is going to be off the charts.
Nobody's talking about Philadelphia. The Knicks and the Cavs.
Gorgeous move from Jalen Brunson.
Donovan Mitchell, 71 points.
I look at the top of the West, I don't see not one of those teams beating the Lakers.
Kevin Durant, by his very presence on Phoenix, has made them the best team in the NBA.
The disappointment comes to an end. The Sacramento Kings are going to the playoffs.
You're watching the NBA Countdown Playoff Preview, presented by Kia.
Welcome to the NBA Countdown Playoff Preview. We are coming at you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17. He's Stephen A. Smith, Jalen Rose, Malika Andrews, Michael Wilbon will be with us in just a moment live from Phoenix. But, my friends, the play-in, the playoffs, they are set. And we're going to start by taking a look at the West because it has been a wild journey to get to this point, a wild Sunday. But the top six is set. So coming into the day, the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Suns, they were locked into the top four spots. The Clippers, they battled back. They claimed the 5 seed. The Warriors, they win in convincing fashion and secure the 6th spot. So that sets up our play-in tournament as follows. The Lakers, they host the Timberwolves in that 7-8 matchup. The winner clinches the 7th seed. And then the Pelicans and the Thunder, they square off in the 9-10 game. The winner faces the loser of the Lakers-Timberwolves for the 8th and final spot. And as our Adrian Wojnarowski has reported, the Timberwolves will be without Jaden McDaniels for that play-in game against the Lakers. They will also, the fate as of Sunday for Rudy Gobert is still unknown. So Stephen A. Smith, when you're looking at this play-in matchup, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that the Lakers are going to advance to go up against the Memphis Grizzlies in the 7-game series, that they've got a legitimate shot at winning because Steven Adams is out and Brandon Clark is out, and obviously that compromises Memphis's front line. It's going to see how pivotal Jaren Jackson is to all of us. We know how incredibly talented he is, but he's prone to get into foul trouble, and you've got to monitor and watch that. The other thing that I say about it is that I'm able to say all of those things and just significantly just bypass the Minnesota Timberwolves because of the stupidity and the idiocy of these guys. You're Rudy Gobert. You're about to go into the postseason, and you're going to punch a teammate on national television in front of a whole bunch of people, as well as your teammate. You're Jaden McDaniels. You're going to punch a wall. You're approaching the playoffs. You're in the play-in game. What could you have possibly been so mad about that you literally punch something and break your hand and you're out for the season? This is idiocy at one of its highest levels, and it's costed the Minnesota Timberwolves relevancy. The only reason we're talking about them is because of how stupid they appear right now.
Wilbon?
Wasn't it just a year ago we sat in similar places talking about the Timberwolves majoring in dumb? I mean, I know I should use the word immaturity, you know, and be a little less agitated, but I am agitated. I mean, because you want to see Anthony Edwards surrounded by a team. This is one of the rising young stars in the league. And you get to the playoffs, and the way he's played, you know, after the All-Star break, it's like, I want to see him. And I want to see how good they can be with Karl Anthony Towns back in there, among other things. And then you get more dumb from the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is year after year after year. How many years can they do this? I mean, they were set up to be in a position to at least be competitive with that bottom group and get into the real playoffs. And now, Stephen A., I'm totally with you. I think the Lakers probably will and ought to take them apart in their single-game play-in situation. And Minnesota just said, let us help you. Let us pick you up and help you knock the daylights out of us in this postseason game.
When the Lakers were looking for a coach, one of the reasons why I felt Darvin Ham would get the job, because he'd be a guy that motivate Anthony Davis. And yes, LeBron James broke the overall scoring record this year, but afterwards he was injured. Anthony Davis balled out like an all-NBA performer. And the same Darvin Ham reinvented this roster multiple times this year with D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura. Now all of a sudden, this is a different team without Russell Westbrook that he now navigates. To Stephen A's point, to get to play at home in this play-in, they're going to wax Minnesota on their home floor and have a legitimate chance to upset the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. I will pick Memphis because they have Ja and they have home court advantage. But the Lakers, the basketball gods have shined down on them and put them in position to continue to advance.
Well, they're certainly not the 2-10 Lakers that started the season. They're adding Tristan Thompson, they're adding Shaq Harrison to their roster, and now we all expect, because especially with a depleted Minnesota Timberwolves team, to see them advance to the playoffs. I do want to kick around a couple of other series that we're looking at here in the West. The Kings series against the Golden State Warriors, Stephen A., and the Phoenix series against the Clippers. Remember, this is the first time that we are going to see Kawhi and Kevin Durant. The last time we saw them go head-to-head in the postseason, unfortunately, that is the game that Kevin Durant tore his Achilles. So we're going to see that for the first time. But of these two series, which one intrigues you the most?
I think it's Golden State versus Sacramento. I mean, think about the two areas. Think about them being about an hour and a half apart. Think about the fact that Mike Brown was an assistant on Steve Kerr's bench. Think about the fact that this is the most high-powered offense in the National Basketball Association, and Golden State is number 2 behind them. Think about the defensive deficiencies that Sacramento has had, and think about what Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, and the crew can do to a team with defensive deficiencies. And then think about the locale. Think about how close they are. Think about that fan base in Sacramento that hasn't been relevant for 2 decades, and they're back in the playoffs pretty much for the first time since that time, since the days of Vlade Divac and Peja Stojakovic and Mike Bibby and the crew with C. Webb and them. Think about what it once was, and think about now the chance that they have, because De'Aaron Fox can ball, Sabonis can ball, Keegan Murray can ball, Harrison Barnes is a former champion with the Golden State Warriors, and they're in close proximity. This is going to be a special matchup. It's must-see television, and that crowd in Sacramento is something special. I remember that, and I ain't been there in 20 years.
I agree with you, and since you crushed those points, I'm just going to make sure I acknowledge the other series. So the Phoenix Suns add Kevin Durant. They're 8-0 with him, but they've only played 8 games together. That's a small sample size going into a playoffs with a team that isn't as deep as their opponent. And Tyronn Lue, a championship-level coach, is going to understand how to navigate that depth. Obviously, when you don't have Paul George, you're not going to be a better basketball team. But Kawhi Leonard, these last 2 months, has been his old dominant self out there on the floor. Russell Westbrook has reinvented himself with the Clippers. And also they have the kind of size up front that can frustrate and make DeAndre Ayton work and possibly even get him into foul trouble playing against, CP3 playing against his former team in the Clippers. That's going to be intriguing.
Grab your popcorn, but Michael Wilbon, which one are you asking Stephen A. to fire up the private jet to go to?
Well, I'm sitting here in the desert, and I'm also sitting in a market, Malika, where this could be the only 4-sport market where the NBA team is the team, where they create more sizzle, more than the NFL team franchise, because the Suns were here first, and they've never won a championship, as you all know. And this is the time now where they got there 2 years ago, but they've added Kevin Durant to that mix. And it's an obsessive environment right now as they go into this series against the Clippers, who they beat a couple of years ago. That was conference finals to get to the finals. But I'm gonna deal with Golden State and Sacramento. Stephen A., I'm glad you mentioned De'Aaron Fox, who I think is the most unseen, unknown, terrific player in the NBA. I mean, people just don't know. People say light the beam. They don't know what light the beam means. You know, it's probably east of, I don't know, Nevada. I know because I'm out here west enough. But De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, and particularly Fox, who I have on my All-NBA team this year, he's been fabulous in all kinds of ways that people are unfamiliar with. So I'm excited to see that series, him paired and matched with the great and incomparable Steph Curry. As much as I love what's going to happen here in the desert with the Clippers and the Suns, the thing I can't wait to see, to be honest, is Golden State against Sacramento.
Well, there's a few things that the audience needs to hear. Number one, Mike Wilbon, if I do get the private jet, he'll help me pay for it. That's number one. Let's get that out the way, okay? That man's made enough money over the year. He can help me pay for it. That's number one. Number two, De'Aaron Fox is relevant to me because it is the only argument I have ever seriously got into with Irvin Magic Johnson, the greatest point guard that ever played, because I wanted him to draft De'Aaron Fox, and he was sold on Lonzo because from Chino Hills. I'm like, hell with all of that. I saw what De'Aaron Fox did to that brother in the NCAAs. I don't care about that. This brother's the guy you need to draft. That's the only argument we ever had. And number 3, to your point, Jalen, about Russell Westbrook. He has been a welcomed addition to the Clippers, which I assumed would happen. He's been great. They've improved offensively across the board. There's one thing we got to pay attention to, though. They have struggled in the half-court offense with him. Open court, yes. Offensive efficiency, yes. But in the half-court, they have struggled. The game slows down come postseason time. You're going to have to do more half-court. You got to be more efficient in the half-court. That is a concern for the Clippers, especially against Phoenix.
Next on NBA Countdown, the Suns are looking to make a deep run in these playoffs. But Kevin Durant, he's not the only legend looking to add another championship. So what future Hall of Famer has the most to gain here from another ring? Plus, could this playoffs redefine the 76ers? Are the Knicks a must-win series against the Cavaliers? So we're going to gauge a little pressure cooker going on for teams in the Eastern Conference. And Jason Tatum, he had another highlight season for the Celtics. Tatum steps into the film room with R. Doris Burke.
All I need is somebody to back up half a step, put their hands down, relax for half a second, and I got him.
The NBA Countdown Playoff Preview is presented by the Kia Telluride X-Pro. Kia is the official automotive partner of the NBA and in part by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Only pay for what you need.
Welcome to the final push, where greatness is tested, where unstoppable forces collide, legends break through, and legacies are etched in gold. It's playoffs time, and whatever happens next is going to be beautiful.
Welcome back to the NBA Countdown Playoff Preview, presented by Kia.
Let's check in on the East. The Bucks and the Celtics, they've dominated all season long, taking the top 2 seeds in the conference. So Milwaukee, they will have home court advantage throughout the playoffs, while the Celtics, they're the only team in top 5 in offense and in defense. And then the Nets are going to have to find some way to stop Joel Embiid in the 3-6 series. He led the league in scoring for the 2nd straight season, the first center to do this since Bob McAdoo in the 1970s. And then the 4-5 matchup in the East, it is a competitive one. The Cavaliers, the Knicks, we know Stephen A. will be locked in. Both teams, they are led by guards they acquired last summer in Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson. So you can see how the bracket is shaping up in the Eastern Conference right now, in the play-in tournament specifically. So for more on the Eastern Conference, we're joined by senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. And Woj, I want to start with the Knicks because Julius Randle, they have been without him since March 29th, and we know if they want to go far in these playoffs, they are going to need him back. What more can you tell us about his timeline?
Yeah, that sprained left ankle. Julius Randle had played in all 77 games this season with the Knicks before getting injured. There's no clear timeline yet. He's got a reevaluation midweek. But Julius Randle has shown a tremendous capacity in his career to play hurt, to want to play when he's not at 100%. I think certainly the expectation around the Knicks and Julius Randle is he's going to try, and he's going to try to find a way to be on the floor, even if he's not at 100%. I think we'll have a better idea midweek.
That is music to Knicks fans' ears. Let's keep it pushing here to the Philadelphia 76ers, because if they are unable to make a deep run in this postseason, what are the ramifications? What could the fallout here be?
Right, Malika, that's Eastern Conference Finals, somewhere they haven't been with Joel Embiid, or of course the NBA Finals. The ramifications may be significant for the future of this Sixers organization. Start with Coach Doc Rivers, the pressure on him this season to advance deeper in the postseason. Certainly the front office, but what does it mean for James Harden's future in Philly? He could be a free agent. The idea of going back to Houston is intriguing to him. I think a lot of it may depend on how this season ends. And then Joel Embiid, what does his roster look like? How does he see his future? He's under contract for certainly more years, but a lot at stake for a Philly organization that has built a roster, a team, a payroll, and expectations around making a deep run. They've got Brooklyn in the first round, and then there possibly sits the Boston Celtics in the conference semis. I think that's a hurdle this organization has to get over, or you may see some significant change from this team to what it's going to look like moving forward if they don't get past that conference semifinal.
Particularly because we have seen the Celtics end their season before. Woj, thank you so very much. We do know, though, that Joel Embiid is going to do everything that he possibly can to will this team forward and into later rounds of the playoffs. He's won the scoring title. He did it in an efficient fashion. You can see the numbers there on your screen. Averaged over 33 points per game, the most in a season by a player to also record a true shooting percentage of 65% in NBA history. But the question has never been, how good is Joel Embiid going to be? It's everyone around him. Stephen A., you just heard the ramifications that Woj laid out, the possibilities that could go wrong and what could happen next for the 76ers. What do you expect of them in the postseason and beyond?
Well, I expect them to manhandle the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets don't have KD, and the bottom line is you should be able to handle your business if you are the Philadelphia 76ers. I assure you, the change that Woj alluded to possibly happening will most definitely happen if they lose a first-round series to the Brooklyn Nets. There is no question about that. So that is not going down like that. We all know that Doc Rivers is a great coach. I don't care what anybody says. But the reality of the situation is somebody that's worked in Philadelphia for 17 years. I know this city like the back of my hand. It's a second home. I'm telling you right now, they are starving for this team to show up and show out and give validity to the process that has been nothing but an excruciating process. They've got to get to the conference finals, and if they don't do that, I definitely think, depending on how they look, assuming they get past the first round, they're in the second round, and you go to a 7-game series or whatever the case may be, there could be changes, and it would start with Doc Rivers, fair or unfair, because we all know Daryl Morey ain't going to fire himself.
Mike Wilbon, how are you evaluating this?
Well, Malika, I'm one of those people that picked the Sixers to go to the conference finals at the beginning of the year. When I look at this, it's all about Joel Embiid. I mean, we just had the graphic and the full screen. Joel Embiid can't afford to be hurt. He can't afford to be in foul trouble. He can't afford to even have more than, say, one game or a game and a half off his form in these playoff series, because with him not on the floor, the Sixers are greatly reduced as a team. I mean, if you have Milwaukee, they can survive without Antetokounmpo. We've seen that from certain teams. You know, if we're looking out west, maybe without Jokic, Denver can survive a couple of games. The Sixers cannot without Joel Embiid. And so they're going to need Embiid. I know a couple of weeks ago, we talked about who the pressure was on the most. And I think my dear friends in that studio with you said it was more on James Harden. I think it's on Embiid, because he's got to be great from soup to nuts for the Philadelphia 76ers to get to that spot that we've been talking about.
Malika and the legend Michael Wilbon just alluded to this, and these basketball lifers know this because you just said you was in Philly 17 years. A couple of things that are at stake for Philly, and they have to do with the same person, James Harden, because I know what I'm going to actually get from Joel Embiid.
Yes.
I don't know if the regular season James Harden is going to translate into postseason James Harden. For an MVP caliber player, which he's once been in his career, and an all-star level player that leads the league in assists, he's had some epic meltdowns in the playoffs, including last year. And his meltdown can actually stop them, A, from getting to the conference finals, and then B, he could be the person that actually leaves. So James Harden actually holds the key to their postseason.
Well, Jalen is right, but there are a couple of nuggets that I think it's important to point out. Number one, we talk about the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid. James Harden is a future Hall of Famer. It's nothing wrong with expecting more from him. He's looked pretty stellar this year. Show up in the postseason, that's number one. Maxey is too young to take the blame. And Embiid is too gifted where we're going to look at him and, he's going to give us something special. You just know it, okay? And you take it series by series because going against Brooklyn and Claxton is entirely different than going up against Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay? We know it's two different worlds. But the other reason why it's important to bring up James Harden is this. When he was in Houston, and I reported this in the past, when he was in Houston, did you know that Mike D'Antoni wouldn't even show him negative plays of himself? That, if you remember the reports that came out, weeks ago, it was talking about how James Harden wasn't necessarily too pleased because Doc Rivers is somebody who is a coach and he is going to hold you accountable. He's going to highlight your mistakes and your flaws so we can correct them. So now you have a situation, if you don't go as far as you would like or you would have expected them to, you're going to look at Daryl Morey and Phillip and Josh Harris, the ownership group, and you're going to say, what are they going to do? Right. And if Daryl Morey has to pick, he's going to roll with James Harden. And if he rolls with James Harden and James Harden tries to sit up there, and, not to say that he will because I don't know that, but what if James Harden implied, look, man, I'll stay, but there needs to be changes amongst the coaching ranks. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of comprehension. It's not something that hasn't happened before. So we got to pay attention to everything if Philadelphia falls, which is why they better not.
I would love to ask you, esteemed gentlemen, a question. So say, for example, and I'll start with you, Michael Wilbon, because I'm going to give you a second to think about it. Say Philadelphia loses in the second round.
Okay.
What do you guys do with James Harden contractually?
Because he did take less to stay.
Well, in theory, so that's more, that's been overplayed to me about the taking less thing. He wanted to get more.
Right.
He couldn't get more.
Right.
So therefore, he had no choice but to take less. But with that being said, going into this free agency, now, to your point, he took less years. So what would you guys do, starting with you, Wilbon, for a guy like Harden that's going to be up for a big-time deal for the next 4 years or so?
I'm going to look at plan B, Jalen. That's a great question. And I'm not getting ahead. Stephen A's already got him losing. My goodness, he's got people coming and going out of town.
I'm just saying it.
Who's leaving, and Doc is going to be back in Chicago playing golf with Wilbon. Hold on now. The Philadelphia 76ers are going to have something to say about this because I think Harden, Jalen, remember, I'm not disagreeing with you and Stephen A on Harden and how good he has to be. I think he can be up to, he needs to be. I mean, let's face it, James Harden, we're not talking about the 29-year-old former MVP James Harden. The window's closing on him, too. But to answer your direct question, I'm looking at all options. I'm looking at a playmaking guard who could come in and play with Joel Embiid because I'm not expecting Joel Embiid to finish his career with Harden. Legit question. I think Harden is going to feel that pressure, but I think he's going to play up to that standard that we're talking about.
All right, just to clarify things for the American public, I did not pick the Sixers to lose. Wilbon, it's a misnomer he's thrown out there because he gets ultra-sensitive when I highlight the possibilities. That is not what I said, number one. Number two, and more importantly, though, I'm not giving James Harden no 40 or 50 million.
There we go.
It's not happening.
Agreed.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. He's not what he used to be. He's still pretty damn good. Very good. Well, but I am not giving him that money over a long-term deal. The answer is unequivocally and clearly, hell no. No.
But there are a whole lot of questions that can be answered with this playoffs and how far the 76ers are going to go. Coming up, though, here on our playoff preview edition of NBA Countdown, the addition of Kevin Durant, it could be just what the Suns need to get a championship. How his relationship with Devin Booker has helped create a balance.
I got some good experience in playing with scorers like Book. The main thing is just try not to get in their way.
Throughout my career, anytime I've been linked with some of the greats, I've always just been in awe.
LeBron James on the precipice of history here.
Showtime. LeBron has it for the record. He got it. LeBron James is now the all-time leading scorer in the history of the NBA.
I actually felt like I was sitting on top of the arena tonight when that shot went in. I'm not sure if I would be able to feel that feeling again. When I kind of teared up a little bit, it was, I can't believe what's going on, tears.
Welcome back to the NBA Countdown Playoff Preview, presented by Kia.
LeBron James passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the all-time scoring record. It might be the most memorable on-court moment of the season. It felt like in the arena, in that moment, time, just for a second, it stopped. But then, a day later, the entire power dynamic of the league shifted. I'm sure you all remember exactly where you were. For me, I was at home and I was brushing my teeth. That's when Kevin Durant, he was traded to Phoenix. And the Suns, they're KD's fourth franchise, and with each came its own pressures, its own challenges. And the Suns superstar, he took a moment to reflect on how those lessons have helped write this new chapter in his career.
Okay, whenever you're ready, sir. We have you right over here on the edge of this couch.
Yep.
I'm going to sit over here, make sure this right here.
The Phoenix Suns at the trade deadline added one of the greatest players in NBA history. Kevin Durant, who has been an MVP once and a Finals MVP twice.
Well, you look at what they built the last couple of years. You look at the two young players in Book and DeAndre Ayton, still under 27 years old. Great coach, great organization.
And now Phoenix operating in the half court. There's your first basket for Kevin Durant as a Phoenix Sun.
I want to continue to battle with myself on being elite. The game is evolving, so I feel like I always got to be on point. There's so many great talents and athletes in this league, so I always got to constantly be on edge.
One-legged step back from Durant.
He's more than an offensive player. It's just that his offensive is so great, sometimes you forget about his defense.
Walked away by Durant.
I said it when we first made the trade. He's somebody that's a plug-in player. You can put him in any environment. He's going to be efficient. He's going to make sure other people get open looks, and he's going to play the right way.
Swings it across, open shooter, Kevin Durant, splash down.
Book and I, we go way back. We was able to do a little bit in the Olympics and play off each other well in the Olympics. I got some good experience in playing with scorers like Book. The main thing is just try not to get in their way. I learned that with Steph and Clay, and I think that'll help me and Book in gaining more chemistry as we get out on the floor together. I'm at this point in my career where it's like I done went through every day of the week. I understand what's going on. My first few years, I was a deer in the headlights, just not knowing what to expect, not knowing who I was as an individual, as a kid, still trying to find myself throughout the, Monday to Friday and the weekend. Now, Sunday, I can rest and relax and enjoy myself and sit back and reflect on what I've done, but knowing I got to go to work tomorrow.
So including his time with the Nets and the Suns, Kevin Durant became the first player in NBA history to average 55% shooting from the field, along with 40% on threes and 90% on free throws. And Phoenix is a perfect 8-0 when Durant is in the lineup, and he's averaging 26 points in those games. Pretty incredible. Mr. Wilbon, we know that winning is one of the many factors that determines a player's legacy. But when you're looking at Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James in these postseason, in this playoffs, who has the most to gain when you're talking about legacy?
Well, Malika, whenever this question is posed, I look at it as, why would anybody have more to gain than anybody else? I mean, Kevin Durant, if we're just doing an inventory, right? Kevin Durant has fewer than Steph Curry and LeBron James, so he would need to catch up and play that numbers game. But let me ask you this. If you are Steph Curry and you wind up with another championship and you wind up sort of separating yourself, at least temporarily, from LeBron James, then how is anybody else other than you the sort of face of the generation of NBA basketball if you've got more championships, if we're just playing inventory? And so I have a problem with that. Obviously, LeBron is playing. They're all playing for all-time greatness. If we stack them and rank them in that way, it would appear to be LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant at this point. But if Kevin Durant wins this year and wins next year on a team that the odds makers, at least the folks in Vegas, think should be the favorite, and he pulls up with 4, then what are we talking about here? Do they all even out? So I don't like to do it in terms of just the numbers, but it seems that's all we're left with.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Godfather. Mike Wilbon talking.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm being set up. I'm being set up, Jalen.
We love this man. Okay, we show up at the resort, the whole bit. We're looking forward to it, even with damn coyotes running in the backyard. Okay,
they're waiting.
What is wrong with you? The question is about this season. Michael Wilbon is such a historian. Don't you notice, Jalen? He's getting agitated by every question. I mean, look, man, it's clearly LeBron James. You know that. He's 38. Let me finish. He's 38. Okay. They started off the season 2-10. Okay, we were sitting there. We could pull up the sound bites of you going off about how disastrous this season was going to be. They've turned it around. They've been 41-29 ever since. They've been about 17-9 since the trade. They got the second best record in the NBA, and he's 38 in his 20th season, averaging what he is averaging. There is no debate. If LeBron James with this team pulls off a championship, I might have to stutter and pause, and even though I'll never get there in terms of making him better than Michael Jordan, I would actually have to sit up there and say, y'all have my permission to have that conversation. I will not refute the conversation any longer. Because there's no way in hell anybody's assuming that LeBron James is going to pull this off. Of course LeBron has the most to gain for this season if they want to walk away with a championship.
Before you jump in, let me ask you a question real quickly, Stephen A. And suppose Steph Curry wins.
Okay, you got 5. You got 5.
And that puts him ahead of who?
I understand that, but the point is that the reigning defending NBA champions, they ain't coming from the gutter. They ain't coming from the sewer. They're the reigning defending champions.
Nobody cares where you came from when you talk about legacy.
They do.
Legacy is something to consider 10 and 15 and 30 and 50 years from now. When you look back, if the inventory says Steph Curry's got more, he's got more.
I got that. And let's look at it right now. This season, what would we be saying at the end of this season? Historically, yes. Years down the road, yes. But right now, we would be like LeBron.
Well, this is a great question. I feel like Fred Sanford. Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you. And the way that you pay homage to Michael Wilbon, I'm going to pay homage to you, the ESPN face of the franchise. What did you call Kevin Durant's move to the Golden State Warriors?
The weakest that I'd ever seen by a superstar.
When they won the championship, his general manager, Bob Myers, alluded to him being on the bandwagon. KD got it so tough from fans and media and even his own teammate, Draymond Green, that he left the Splash Brothers to go play with Kyrie Irving with the Nets. And you were there covering the Nets. How many playoff series did they win?
1.
Okay. It was so bad that Kyrie's gone, Harden's gone, and KD's gone. The answer is clearly Kevin Durant. LeBron redeemed himself from going to Miami with the public by going back to not only Cleveland to win it, but winning one with the Lakers. They still gonna have the GOAT conversation for him. Steph Curry has already cemented himself as the favorite player of this generation, and he already has 4 championships. One before KD, one after KD. The Phoenix Suns have had how many championships, Michael Wilbon, in their franchise history?
0.
0. So Kevin Durant has a chance to bring them a championship. He's definitely the answer to this question.
Let me tell you.
Unequivocally,
you are wrong. And let me tell you why you're wrong, for one reason and one reason only. Because you said Phoenix. If KD had won in Brooklyn, you'd be right.
That's
but
worse.
Not Cleveland. No, not Cleveland. I'm sorry, not Phoenix. I'm sorry. Not Phoenix. Not when you got Devin Booker, CP3, DeAndre Ayton, and Monty Williams as your coach. Oh, no.
He would have had Harden and Kyrie. So those guys are Hall of Famers. What are we talking about,
what he did. What he did in departing from Golden State and what he himself had assembled in Brooklyn. If you had done it in Brooklyn, yes. In Phoenix, not so much.
Well, he only won, as you mentioned, 1 playoff series. The Nets did when it was those 3 together, so it wasn't exactly what we expected. But it seems like when you look at the narratives, right, either the Warriors are climbing out of the worst season that we've seen for teams on the road, just unacceptable that we cannot explain. Either the Lakers are climbing out of a 2-10 season to start, or you have Kevin Durant leaving Brooklyn and winning Phoenix's first franchise. It seems like there's a whole lot to consider there. But if any of those 3 players want to do that, guess what they're going to have to do? They're going to have to beat a team in the East. And for the Eastern Conference, dominance all season long, it has been the Bucks and it has been Boston. So we assess their chances of winning it all coming up.
Damian Lillard, 71 points. 71 from Donovan Mitchell. One of the great performances. Curry again from way downtown.
Put me in the game. They put me in, so I'm going in. You play for fun, I'm playing to win. Back on the wall, I'm ready for war. If I beat them before, I could beat them again. They thought I was done. I went on a run and beat all the odds and got even again. Watch what you say, I'm not one of them. When I jump in my bag, I could jump out the gym. Take a look at my legacy. I gotta let them see I'm out here winning, cause I'm on a mission.
Step back three. It's gone.
I honestly do not see no competition. I gotta get it, so it ain't no quitting. We jump off the benches and jump in the trenches.
It's over, ladies and gentlemen. A star born tonight.
More than a kid, no play on my name. Don't bring in my game. All of that talking just sound like a show. I'm just letting you know that I'm not entertained. You hear the crowd, they screaming my name. I got the stadium going insane. Done with the talking, it ain't no discussion. You started, I finished, put me in the game.
Randall knocks down the three.
It's a three in the Put me in the game. All of that talking just sound like a show. I'm just letting you know that I'm not entertained. Hey, coach, put me in the game.
Welcome back to the NBA Countdown Playoff Preview, presented by Kia.
Welcome back. There certainly were some incredible moments in the regular season and so many more to come in the postseason. But you did not think that we would get to this point in our playoff preview show and not talk about Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers taking on Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks. Stephen A. Stephen A., my friend, the floor is yours.
Orange and blue skies, baby. Congratulations to the New York Knicks for the regular season that they have had. Congratulations to Leon Rose. Doesn't matter that he's been running from the media for the last 2 years. At least he's got a good team. Worldwide West and the crew, Scott Perry, Tom Thibodeau, the players. Julius Randle didn't miss a game, played all 77 before he got hurt. Jalen Brunson, can't say enough. The New York Knicks season is an abject failure if they lose to Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to let up. You cannot have an opportunity to get this star who had his bags packed, who was looking forward to being a New York Knick, who was basically politicking to become a New York Knick before that happened. You knew it, and you let it slip through your fingers to the Cleveland Cavaliers. You cannot have that man send you home. If Donovan Mitchell, which we all know he's capable of pulling off, if he sends the New York Knicks home in the first round, the season is a failure. Period.
Here's what I know.
It better not happen.
I know that it is the best time of the year, my friends. Hopefully it stays that way in a couple of weeks for Stephen A. Smith. But this is why we watch. This is what we root for and hope for all season long.
Garland.
The postseason is here, baby.
Donovan.
Enjoy. Get your popcorn. Let's get it.
Court.